Dave Corinth here. Welcome to my shop. I'm going to do another unboxing video today. And no, I did not buy this plane from Target. I bought it from eBay. But the person did a pretty good job, from what I can tell, of packaging this plane because I don't hear anything rattling around in there, which is always a good sign. And it is a number 7 sized cast iron plane. So let's open this box and see what I got. But first, I want to show you what I saw when I was looking at this plane on eBay. I had this one on my watch list for quite some time, and you can see the listing title's pretty self-explanatory. Not much confusion there except for whatever the OV is. So the first thing I do is I check out the description. There might be some good info in there, but not on this one. All it says is 1. Now the pictures on this listing are actually pretty good. There's a lot of good light source and you can see a lot of details in it. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for obvious damage. Second photo doesn't show much, but I can kind of see some detail here, like that scratch on the tote. The mouth looks good, and so do the sides. As I'm scrolling through here, I look at it for a second and then whoop, go back because I thought I saw something on the side. But it turns out it doesn't look like it's anything. Next one's not very helpful except for the mouth. This one's blurry. That one's blurry. And then I get to this picture and I can see the top, and the Japanning looks fantastic except for what might be a hang hole. I can see it's got a full-length iron, and as I scroll to the front, the Japanning on the front looks great, as does that knob, and you can clearly see it's a number 7. And it's got a lateral. And the last photo on the listing shows a close-up of the mouth, which is really important. I don't see any cracks anywhere in that mouth. So now that you've seen what I saw, let's open this box up and see what's inside. Packed well. Lots of newspaper. There is the plane. Right there. I always worry about buying number 7s on eBay because that right there is why. Stuff tends to protrude out. These things are really heavy, and that's interesting. Yeah. Well, let's find out. Where do I start from? Oh, down there. And look at, well, that. Okay, let's get it out of this and let's get a better look at it. So here it is in the cast iron. And if you don't know, this is an HSB Revonoc. HSB & Co. stands for Hibbard, Spencer, and Bartlett. And they were a hardware store based out of Chicago that sold everything, including carpenter's tools, under the Revonoc name. And you could have bought this number 7 for $5.50. And if you're wondering where Revonoc comes from, it comes from this man, Charles H. Conover. He was the president of Hibbard, Spencer, and Bartlett about the time they started selling planes. And Revonoc is his last name spelled backwards. Just by looking at it, the places that I had concerns about was right here. Let's zoom in on that one. I don't think that's anything. There was another spot right here, and it looks like it's just a scratch. That's all that is. And then there was a spot here that I thought could have been a hang haul, but I could tell from the other side that it wasn't. But looks like it's just some kind of paint. I don't know what that is. So beautiful tote. It's got some scratches here, but we can take care of that. Doesn't look like it has seen a whole lot of use. The Japanning on it, fantastic. Look at that. Knobs in excellent condition. Now these are mahogany, not rosewood. Let's look at the other side. Oh yeah, that looks outstanding. Knob doesn't have any damage to it. So let's take a look at the iron, and before I do that, I want to take the cap off. But first, I've noticed one little thing, and that is there's a gap right here. So this iron's not set on there correctly. That's not a big deal, but a lot of times that happens in shipping. So As you can see, it looks like the iron's probably riding on top of that circular disc, but not a problem. Look at this. Good Lord. Well, they didn't want that to come off, did they? Oh, that's good. That thing. Turn it with your finger. That's good. Okay, so let's see the iron. Now, if you don't know anything about these Revonocs, which were made by Stanley, honestly, it's probably what they call a union delete, in that these are castings that were made by Union, machined by Stanley, and they come with an absolutely massive iron. So you can see that that thing is huge, very thick, which is what I like about these Revonocs, at least the ones that have the thick irons. That thing is a beast, and I'll get you a Stanley iron. Oh. This is your standard Stanley iron. And look at the difference. That thing is a beast, and it weighs a chunk. That thing is heavy. So, you can tell by the lack of rust here, this thing has not seen much use. It has been sharpened. Not very sharp. I mean, So let's get this off and see what the iron looks like. And I always want to see what the back of the iron looks like where it touches a chip breaker. And this one I don't think is going to have any problems. Ooh, not that. I'm going to use this. Oh, that's not even tight. That is loose as a goose. We'll go ahead and pop that thing all the way off. That looks good. Outstanding. So won't have to have a lot of work done there. Man, I can't get over how thick that is. Look, let's do that one more time. This is the Stanley iron. Look how thick that thing is. My goodness. So, chip breaker looks good. As you can see, it still has some of the original gun blue on it. Never been messed with. And these are a little bit thicker than standard Stanley chip breakers as well. Here is the cap. And again, I always like to make sure there's no chips on the end. That one looks good. Cam lever locks in place nice. So far, so good. So let's go ahead and get the frog off. Hopefully it comes off nice and easy. Let's find out. Oh yeah, there it goes. Okay, that's a good sign. Yep. Both of them come out really easy. And there is our frog. And you can see these have a twisted lateral, not like the two-piece Stanley laterals, which is indicative of a union plane. And the frog looks outstanding. Another feature that I have noticed over the years, when you see a plane that is a union delete or made by Union, is that they have this little machined area here. Stanley doesn't do that, at least not on their planes. I mean, this could have been machined by Stanley, but anytime I've ever seen one that's made by Union or that is a Union plane, it has this little machined seat right here, which honestly, it's kind of confusing because I know that Union started making planes in 1898, 1899, and they turned over the machining processes of their planes in 1907 to Stanley. So after 1907, and I believe that's right. If I'm wrong, correct me, I don't care. Stanley started to do all the machining on their planes. Then you start to see the frog screws and the tote and rod screws, they all go to 1220 instead of whatever Union had before. But this is a sign that it is a Union-made plane, even though it might have been machined by Stanley. For some reason, they did that extra little divot there. That frog looks like it's in excellent condition. The lateral's not loose. This is not tight. That spins freely. This, so far, yeah, that's good. That's no problem whatsoever. Okay, so frog's in good shape. Iron's in good shape. I always like to see what's behind the frog, and you can see this one has not been off there in a very long time, because look at the shadow line for the dust. You can see it right there. That is dust. So let's clean that dust out and look at that frog better. This is a nylon brush, not a brass brush, so it won't damage any of the panning if there is any left. Oh, lots of goodies in there. Look at all that. Oh, yeah. I always like to see how much dust comes out of a frog whenever I take one of these older ones apart. But this one is in excellent condition. You can see this is basically the Type 8 style frog made by Stanley. Clearly, that's a Stanley style frog seat. And the body looks great. I don't see any issues with it at all. I mean, this thing looks fantastic. There are some things that I've noticed that I do want to point out. So I said earlier that these were what are called union deletes. And the reason they call them union deletes is because if you look right here, and I don't know if you can see this, but you see how there's a little flat spot right here? It starts right there, and it goes to right here. That's where you would have seen union number 7 on the back of this plane. And it's been, or at least the original pattern had that milled off or sanded off or whatever. It was taken off. And you can see the shadow of that spot where that would have been. You can also see where there was a screw right here on the pattern plate. And see if I can find another one, maybe one up front here. No. But it does say number 7. So the Japanning on this thing, I could not be happier with that. That is absolutely outstanding. So let's look at the tote knob a little closer. The knob, again, mahogany. I don't see any checking down at the base. And of course the tote, or handle, as some like to call it, that looks fantastic. I don't see any damage to it at all. This is the original finish from what I can tell. It still has the gun blue on the small screw on the front of the tote. These were gun blued at the factory. I don't believe these were. I don't think the rods were gun blued. I think they were just steel. And of course, let's look at the mouth, because that, of course, is one of the most important parts, and it is crack free. I don't see any damage at all. Another thing I will point out is that since it has a thicker iron, this mouth is a little bit bigger than a Stanley number 7. Because it has to be for that larger iron. But this one's never been modified. It is perfectly original. So I am very happy with this plane so far. One more thing I want to point out. This is a little trick I learned over the years. If you find an HSB Revonoc iron, which is what this is, and you can find the chip breaker and the screw with it. The screw is considerably taller than a Stanley screw because it has to compensate for that thicker iron. So if you find an HSB Revonoc chip breaker and iron, and they're trash, but this is good, this will allow you to put a thicker Lie-Nielsen iron or a thicker iron on a Stanley plane, because it's so much thicker. Let's see if I can find another one here, a standard Stanley. Oh, looky here. So look at the difference. That is a significant difference between the standard Stanley, and of course this one off of the Revonoc. So just this little screw alone can be useful if you're wanting to take your number 7 or your number 5 or whatever and put a thicker iron in it, because this will allow you to do that without having to buy a new one. So I find these all the time in horrible shape where they're just rusted and pitted, but the screw's good. I always get them because I like these bigger screws. Okay, so let's put this thing back together now. So I had been watching this plane for quite some time, and the seller originally had it at 125 and then marked it down to 117.65, which is kind of an odd number, but probably based on a percentage. So I decided I would offer them 75 just so I could see where they were at. And maybe they would raise it up to 100 and I might nibble then. Either way, I offered them 75 and they took it with free shipping. So all told, I'm into this plane about $82, which I think is a bargain for a number 7 joiner plane, especially one that's in this condition. Do I need a number 7? No, I've got one sitting right up there and I don't even have a place to put this right now. But I've never let me not needing a tool stop me from buying one, because I really like this one and it's pretty and it's in excellent condition. So I definitely am glad that I bought it. I'm going to sharpen it up here before too long, and I'll make a video on getting this thing tuned up so you guys can see how well this Revonoc number 7 joiner works. I think I did good on this plane. I'm certainly happy with it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll make more. And I'll probably make more even if you don't comment, like, or subscribe, because I really like making these videos. So, thank you for watching. Just because I don't need it doesn't mean that I don't want to buy it, because this never stopped me before. And don't tell my wife, so, because I don't want her to know that. Does she watch these? Shit. She one with a really thick. Go away. Especially one with the. Go away. Stop it. You shoot fly. Sorry. Especially one with a really thick iron. The buyer was asking the seller, it had an option to make an offer, of course, which I did, of $80. No, you mother.